3 confessions that changed everything. Part 1. Dangerous assumptions. What's the most shocking thing someone's ever told you? Now imagine. They told you not to unburden themselves, but to watch if you'd flinch. There's a fetish for that. A fetish for confessions, and it's not about the body. Not even about sex. It's about control. Throwing their darkest truth at you like a dart and waiting to see if you bleed out. Hi, my name is Mia. I worked as a webcam model for 2 years. Some nights were harmless, almost sweet. Others felt like balancing on a minefield. Bobby appeared out of nowhere, no camera, no mic, just tech stop 50 years old. Wheelchair, lives alone, no friends, no family, no one waiting for him anywhere. Most nights he drank to keep the ghosts entertained. He joked. I laughed. I liked that he didn't take his own misery too seriously. I've met plenty of lonely people online, but Bobby stood out. He reminded me of Bobby from Supernatural, the grumpy, stubborn mentor type, ex-military, carrying old wars in his bones. Kind of man who'll complain about life and fix your roof at 3 a.m., swearing the whole time. Our chats weren't about sex. They were about nothing and everything. Why pigeons always look like they're plotting a crime. How instant coffee tastes better at night. Why duct tape is the real MVP of survival. It was banter that made me grin without meaning to. And just when I'd relax, he'd slip in something heavier, like how he'd lost more friends to booze than to bullets. Or how the silence at night was louder than any battlefield. Little gut punches. Between the jokes, reminders that this wasn't just porch talk with a charming old vet. One night, after a run of jokes about my soft city hands and how I'd never survive a week in the wild, I teased him back. Oh please, I'd outlast you? Not a chance. He shot back. I've survived worse than your sass. I laughed. He had a way of pulling me into his rhythm, mixing warmth with edge. And then, mid-banter, his tone shifted. You're the only one I can tell the truth. To, he typed out the words felt heavier than usual. I sat still, fingers on the keyboard, then came the message that pinned me in place. I have 3 secrets. I stared at the screen. The warmth I felt toward him sharpened into curiosity. And the smallest ripple of unease, because sometimes the people who make you feel safest are the ones who can take you places you never planned on going. Part 2. The first and second secrets. When Bobby came back after a few days of silence, something in his messages had shifted. The pauses were longer. The tone heavier, like he was laying down stepping stones in front of me, waiting to see if I'd follow. We picked up where we left off, light jokes, small talk. Then, out of nowhere, I asked, have you ever been in love? The reply came slow. I lost him, Bobby wrote. He died in the war, shot right in front of me. I read it twice, not because I didn't understand the words, but because the image hit too hard. 2 men in uniform and one of them watching. The other fall, it was the first time he'd mentioned to him. That was Johnny, he continued. My first love. My only love. I didn't type for a few seconds. It wasn't pity I felt. It was something closer to respect, the kind you feel when someone opens a door to a room they don't show anyone. Bobby kept going. We had to hide. They wouldn't forgive relationships like ours. One rumor, and it could have ended everything. I pictured them stealing moments in the shadows, holding conversations and glances, and I finally understood why he always seemed so careful with his words. Then he switched gears. There's something else. He typed a beat before the army. I did porn. I snorted before I could stop myself. Well, we're practically colleagues. I shot back. He sent a laughing emoji. You get paid to talk. I got paid to not talk. I grinned, shaking my head. But his next message cut through the humor. I wasn't afraid of what I did. I was afraid it would tarnish Johnny's memory. And just like that, the room in my head where I'd put him, gruff, lonely, tragic, shifted again. This wasn't about shame it, about protecting someone he loved, even after death. For a while, we just sat in the chat, swapping the occasional line, and then he said, "There's a third secret, but I'm not sure you're ready for it." "Try me," I wrote. He disappeared for 2 days. Then at 2 a.m., my screen lit up. "So, ready for the third one?" I hesitated. Half of me wanted to say no. The other half, the part that had been walking this strange road with him, typed, "Go ahead." First sentence made my stomach tighten. It was with Johnny. And someone else. I didn't know it yet, but the next thing he typed would redraw the lines of what I thought I could listen to without judgment. Part 3. The third secret has next. Message landed like a rock in my stomach. We were young, drunk, looking for something new. I knew this wasn't going anywhere good, but I kept reading because when you work in my line of business, curiosity is both a skill and a weakness. It was me, Johnny, and a dog. He typed. I stared at the screen, not breathing. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd read it wrong, but no, the words didn't change. He went on. It happened once. We even filmed it. Years later, someone found the tape and started blackmailing me. The chat window felt colder. I'd listened to hundreds of confessions, some stranger than fiction, but this wasn't strange. This was a line. I tried to keep my tone neutral. Well, in terms of exotic, you've definitely outdone my other clients. A joke, a shield, but he wasn't done. Sometimes I still think about it, he wrote, and you know what scares me? In that moment, it felt normal. My fingers froze over. The keys. This wasn't a cry for help. This was a test. Then came the question that made my chest tighten. Does that turn you on? I felt the shift in me, from listener to target, and I realized this wasn't about confession anymore. This was about control. I closed the chat, blocked him, shut the laptop. For a long moment, I just stared at the ceiling, feeling the echo of his words like a bad taste. A fetish for confessions can seem harmless, even intimate. The rush comes not from touching bodies, but from touching limits. It's about pushing someone to a point where they have to choose, keep listening or walk away. For some, it's about trust. Now that you know my darkest truth, we're bound. For others, it's about power, pulling you into their world and daring you to leave. The danger is, you often don't know which it is until you're already inside. That night, I learned something important. Some confessions build connection, others are a form of violation, and the most dangerous ones, they don't ask for your understanding, they ask for your complicity. So tell me, what's the one confession you wish you could unhear?